na ai de dusho konia da plodamo.
Hello, my name is Virginia Powers. I've been folk dancing on and off since 1950, and it's been a major part of my life. I first saw folk dancing in a ski lodge, and I had never seen polkas and hambos and waltzes like that. And I was fascinated, and I asked the people, where do you learn that? Well, we were all students at the University of Washington at the time, and they said, oh, right on campus we have a Scandi Club every Tuesday. So the next Tuesday I turned up to see what Scandi Club was. A young man, tall man, asked me to dance, and I said, you know, I've never seen this before, I don't know how anything. He said, come on, I'll show you. Well, he did, but it was a Scandinavian dance that's very simple, called slunga, and you just walk, 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 and then you pivot, 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 pivot. Well, my head flew back, and I couldn't get it back up. So there he was, dancing with this headless woman. And when we got through, I thought, well, I'll never see him again. The next Tuesday, I came again. He again asked me to dance, and I said, well, you know my limitations. Well, this dance, I'm on different feet and steps that opposite from yours. I'll do my part and talk your part, and I think we can do it. This is the very, very common dance, the hambo. And it's a wonderful dance, a basic dance. And so he did this, and I managed to do it at the end, by the end of the piece. And he said, well, you know, you're going to catch it. And I think, well, I did. I was hooked. I really loved it. When you first do hambo, you don't do it well. It took a long time to perfect it because it takes a lot of balance and a lot of coordination between your partner and you. But I learned the basis of it that one night, and that hooked me. Well, I kept going dancing at Scandi Club for months. And this same person mentioned to me, you know, this is good folk dancing, but there's also there's a very good Bulgarian group. Well, I was a music major, and I thought I knew a lot about music, and I was anxious to hear what Bulgarian music sounded like. Well, we went. I spent the entire evening trying to figure out the meter of what that music was. And I didn't believe that uneducated, illiterate musicians could play music that complicated. It was a real comeuppance for my awareness of the whole role of music in society. Most Western music is divisions by two. I mean, a whole note is twice as much as half notes, and quarter notes are twice as much as so forth, divided by two. Well, Bulgarian music is divided by, I think, 3.5, because some of the signatures are 11/16, 9/16, even 13/16, and that doesn't come out 1, 2, 3, 4 at all. It comes out slow, quick, and that's what the dances are. But it's beautiful and very, very satisfying to dance. But this made me realize I don't know a thing about music as a human endeavor. About that time, I heard that there was going to be an anthropologist guest professor who was a specialist in ethnomusicology. And I thought, that sounds interesting. So I had finished my music degree and decided to enroll in graduate school. Well, as you all know, graduate school now is hard to get into. All I had to do is show up for classes, and I was welcomed with open arms, even given a teaching assistantship to help. And I was working for the university at the time as a draftsman in an applied physics laboratory, so I got free tuition. But the anthropology department let me grade papers, and they paid me for it. Well, I ended up with a master's degree in ethnomusicology, and I've never regretted that, because the awareness you get in hearing music is marvelous, and that has really been the motivation for keep dancing, because more and more you learn Romanian music, you learn Russian music, you learn Scandinavian music, and what their characteristics are, and it's wonderful. So I've danced a lot, except when life got in the way and I had to take care of kids or things. But I left Seattle and I moved to New York. And there I got a chance to dance with one of the major forces behind the development of folk dancing in the United States, Michael Herman. And I danced in his studio and learned a great deal. But I also ran into an old friend from Seattle, where the University of Washington is, and he had opened his own studio for international dancing, Sonny Newman. He's still an active teacher in Seattle area. And so I got to dance a lot in New York, and I liked that. From New York, moved to Ithaca, New York, and good dance group there, but they didn't have a teacher. So I sort of learned to teach. And an interesting thing happened. They decided to go to a festival that was in a nearby city and do a performance. Well, one of the members of the group was very skilled at sewing, and she had found a picture in a National Geographic of a marvelous Polish costume she thought we could duplicate. So we all went to work, and I made probably 3 of the costumes, and she made probably 4 of the costumes, and because the men's costumes were complicated with very fancy inlay work on the thigh of the white pants. But we did it, and and then we choreographed a Polish dance sequence that was fun, whirling on the way in and then doing a dance that had patterns and then whirling on the way out. It was a lot of fun, and I still am friends with some of those people that we worked together in Ithaca. And I learned something about teaching, because they didn't have a teacher, and they had some people that wanted to learn, and I sort of learned how to teach beginners, and I liked that. Well, then we moved to Boulder, Colorado. There was a really big group of international folk dancers. This is in the 60s. This is 1962. And folk dancing was big in nearly all the colleges, all over the country. And there were 50, 75 people every week. And there I learned even more about teaching, because they had teachers at the advanced level, but they didn't have anybody to help beginners. So I actually had a series of, I think, 10 classes, something like that, that people would sign up for, and they would take the series. And some of those people still dance in Boulder and thank me for introducing them to international dancing, because it's still it's one of the parts of this country that has a very, very active dance program. They've built buildings to accommodate various dance groups. It's not dying in Boulder, Colorado. Went from there to Texas, I think, and there the dancing in Dallas was less than I expected from a big city. But by that time it was the 1970s, and it was not a big group, and it wasn't a very active group, but there is a statewide Texas camp every year that bring people from all over the Southwest, and that camp is marvelous. And we met very, very good teachers there, and very, very good dancers. They have a very good band. So we had a lot of fun with the Texas camp. And now this camp is the first time we've danced for a long time because various things have gotten in our way. And it's a marvelous camp. It's just the ethnic music that they can duplicate here is just thrilling. They have traditional instruments and people that really know how to play the traditional instruments and make it sound like it would sound back home in Europe. It's been a thrill. So that's my experience with dancing. And any more?
How do you find the dancing experience different at a camp as opposed to your weekly dancing sessions?
Oh, the camps have such a much wider repertoire to call from, because many of the individual folk dance groups in towns get sort of specialized, that they do more Scandia than they do Balkan, or more Balkan than they do Scandia. And if you happen to want to do both, you sort of have to go to two different groups. You come to camp and all of it is done, and with great enthusiasm and skills, and usually excellent teachers that are experts in specific ethnicities and are very often from those ethnicities, and it's thrilling to meet those people and find out the origin of these dances that we do. An interesting thing has happened. One teacher, Yves Moreau, has told me that many of the dances that he teaches have become extinct in Europe. And people that want to do his history come to him to learn to do the dances that are native to their country. And Dick Crum had the same experience, that people came to him to rekindle the native dancing. And that was interesting.
Now you've mentioned Yves Moreau, Dick Crum, and Michael Herman.
And Sonny Newman.
Are there any other teachers or anybody else who inspired you along the way that really stands out?
Not that I can come up with, because those are some of the major ones that I had. Oh, and then there's Rue. I'm here at camp because of Rue. Rue Lester is a marvelous Scandi teacher. And yes, she's been influential. I've caught her at several workshops, because we've followed workshops fair amount. One of the side effects of my having learned to dance in Seattle in 1950 is that the people who danced also skied and climbed. I'd started out finding out about dancing through skiing, but the 50-some people that came every Tuesday, almost all of them were skiers and mountain climbers and sailors. So I learned to do all three of those things in Seattle that stayed with me the rest of my life, and I can't thank them all enough because it was just so much fun. And the mountain climbing, there are some funny stories. One of my colleagues in graduate school, anthropology, wanted to learn to climb mountains. Well, we managed to take her up some mountains, and the mountains in Colorado are in Washington State are so beautiful because of the moisture. So we've got flowers that just go on forever, waterfalls, glaciers, and the beauty is amazing. Well, this particular person just fell in love with crevasses. So we'd take her up a glacier and we'd hardly get to the top because she had to stop at every crevasse and put her head down and look at the beautiful blue in that crevasse. And it was fun. It's fun to introduce people to things like that. I've stayed in contact with her, and she has a sailboat, and so we've sailed together too. So that's one of the concomitants of folk dancing. Trying to think if there's anything else.
You meet husbands.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They say that dancing is a good place for boys to meet girls and girls to meet boys, and that is true. Because my husband and I met folk dancing in Boulder and have danced ever since. I mean, we're here at this festival dancing after 54 years of being married. and many, many friends. If I counted from what source friends are that I still have today, many are from that dancing, and we're still in contact with. That's from 50, almost 60 years, because I danced since 1950, and that is it's been a very important part of my life.
Now, you mentioned about some places having less younger people dancing and shrinking. Do you have any ideas about how to get the younger generation involved in dancing?
We've struggled with that several times. It's gone in almost a wave relationship. It'll be very, very popular for a while, and it'll diminish in popularity, and then and that's a little bit hard to find the origins of those fluctuations. Right now, it's in a sink because many cities, they're losing the international dancers to contra, to hip hop, to more strenuous dancers like Lindy. And in Dallas, the folk dance group has disbanded, and that was it's difficult to find children of dancers taking up dancing because they want to do what their peers are doing, not what the old folks are doing. So it's hard to tell what will happen. For me, it was more of an intellectual thing too, because I didn't know where Bulgaria was when I went to that Bulgarian dance, and I didn't know where a lot of the individual cultures are in smaller geographical areas than nations, and it's fun to learn how different two cultures next to each other share. And so you find interesting combinations of movements that is in one place it'll be a very gentle thing, and another it'll be hop, skip, and jump. And it's fun to trace that. And the music, the ethnic music, is bottomless in its variety, just bottomless. And the skill that those people have, they don't read music, but boy, they make music, and that has been a thrill to me too. So,
if you were going to request a dance, what dances would you request?
Well, Hambo was one of my favorites, just completely. It was a wonderful one that was played on a mouth harp that I loved too, but I've forgotten its name at the moment. Having not danced for several years, I'm rusty at this point, very rusty. Connection between head and feet is disconnected. I think the Scandis are the ones that I love the motion for, because it's smooth turning, coordinating turning. But the Balkan dancing are usually done in lines with no partner. I still am thrilled by those complicated rhythms. They're just, they fit the body, they fit the mind, they fit the music, and you can get almost mesmerized doing some of them.
Do you think that folk dancing has a spiritual aspect to it?
Well, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not attuned to that aspect. It's for me, it's more of a social thing.
How does dancing make you feel?
Happy and enervated.
I'm tired.
It's very, very therapeutic, I think. I found out that in college I had a gym class that taught the Schottish, and I had learned the Schottish in high school somehow. But I noticed that when I came out of that gym class, I was in a better mood. And I was aware of it. So, yeah, dancing is therapeutic.
The costume you're wearing, you want to tell us about the costume?
This costume is from the area of Norway called Telemark. And it's a summer costume. And I love Norwegian dancing, and when I lived in Boulder, a friend of ours who was Norwegian had a sort of side business in selling Norwegian things, and folk dancers always like costumes and costume pieces and pins and anything that's recognizable for that culture. Well, she suggested that I get a kit for making a Telemark summer costume, and I did. I bought it. I bought the kit, but then things happened, and I ended up moving away from Boulder. And it was probably after having moved to Dallas, Texas, Plano, really, 2 years later, that I found these pieces of blue cloth that were all embroidered. What are these? Finally it dawned on me that it was the kit for the costume. And my mother had done the embroidery on the pieces of blue cloth. And you can see some of the embroidery. I can show you close up. But I opened the package. All the instructions were in Norwegian. I couldn't read them. And all the pattern pieces were just pieces of rectangles. They didn't look like any dress patterns I'd ever seen, which were sort of cut to the shape of the dress. So I didn't know what to do. About that time, I read a little advertisement in a local newspaper of a new store that was just opening in Plano, Texas, that was Scandinavian. And on the bottom of the article it said, "We're offering classes in costume making." Well, I hightailed it over there the next day with my kit and said, "Can you help me put this together?" They did. and this is the result. And the embroidery is my mother's, and it's absolutely beautiful and absolutely culturally exactly right. So that was special.
In closing, is there anything that you'd like to say?
If you're in a bad mood, dance. I seriously mean that. The combination of music and dance has a lot of therapy to it. And I've met the most important people in my life really through dancing. And I now live in an area that's far away from any ethnic dancing, and I miss it. I'm going to try to find something to take its place, because the exercise, the mental exercise, just the soothingness, I don't know, curiosity is stimulated, because you hear a piece of music and you can't figure out the meter. It's a challenge to figure out 13/16, and it's a good mental exercise. A friend of ours was learning to play accordion, and he was learning Baltic accordion really very well. But he came to our house one day and said, I can't figure out the rhythm to this piece that I'm trying to play. And so Bob and I, my husband and I, listened to that, and it took us half the day to figure out it was in 23 what? Remember?
No.
23/16, I guess, maybe. It was a combination of slow and quick. 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, and added up before it repeated 23 beats. And that was fun.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for listening.
Ay de amor, ay de luz.